this game is the sum of modern horror today. I mean, we're talking about a lot of remakes that have come out of classic horror movies. And when I say classic, I'm talking about those that came out in those late 1900s. I'm talking about the slashers. I'm talking about the supernaturals. I'm talking about the Exorcist, Evil Dead, all types of stuff. And then this is all wrapped up in a new shell of Resident Evil, a type of Resident Evil that we haven't seen before. In the beginning of this game, it's not a big castle. It's not a city infested with zombies. We are in the swamps of Louisiana. You are with a new protagonist this time, a brand new fresh face that you never see in the game because it is presented in a first-person perspective. And when I say this changes everything, this changes how you approach corners, this changes how you look down to see if something is down there when it makes a sound, this changes simple things like turning around. We still have the 180, but when something pops up in your face, it is different. It is more intimate. It is terrifying. As you can see by some of my facial expressions, I don't know, I probably didn't have the camera zoomed in enough, but yeah, it's nice to see influences from horror movies that I recognize. Because you know, if you go back to the first Resident Evil, I wasn't really like hip to the lore of horror, like Night of the Living Dead, Frankenstein, stuff like that. I wasn't hip to it, but with this one, when you have Jack Baker making these comments, when you have him making these quips,
Don't you just slip out before dinner was done?
I automatically start thinking about Freddy Krueger. I automatically started thinking about the Evil Dead when the Deadites are always talking shit to Ash.
Hello, lover.
And then when we have these gory scenes mixed with comedy, of course I gotta see what the Evil Dead is talking about. Of course I gotta remember when Ash got his hand cut off and then we had to watch him run around with a stump. You have to do this in this game for a few seconds and then you sew it back on. It's crazy. And then we even have Saw, like the movie Saw, with the puzzles, with somebody talking to you, trying to communicate with you and walk you through the horror that you're going through. The person that is putting you through this, they're making sadistic noises and sounds, and they're used to doing this. They're doing this to other people all of the time, and they're putting you through certain mental and psychological tests where you either have to sacrifice certain pieces of yourself and cause harm, or you die. But this is still Resident Evil at its core. See, the beginning is so jarring and shocking as a Resident Evil fan. I appreciate it so much because after recently playing through RE6 and even RE5, the direction that it went in when it was going for the super blockbuster production type events, I was just like, oh my god. Every time, every scene in those games is like an action movie. We got Chris Redfield doing his ridiculous boulder stunt. In Resident Evil 6, we have Leon flying helicopters through skyscrapers. We have jets crashing into random buildings. We have too much shit going on. This game simplifies, cuts it all the way down. And when I say that, we don't need a whole city. We don't need hordes and hordes and hordes of mooks, undead, Magini, Ganados, whatever you want to call them. We don't need all of those. We just have this house, this family. Oh my god, another reminder. Shout out to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When you have a family full of cannibals, quotation marks, and the question mark at the end, because it is very questionable what type of meat are they eating. It could be livestock, or it could be people that have been chopped up in the basement and turned into the molded in this game, as they're called.
I've seen everything. What the fuck?
Yes, this game is much more simplified. And see, when you're looking for that hit, I think they had this notion that more It's good, and that's where it ended up with Resident Evil 6. We had like 5 different scenarios. Let's see. Each scenario had 2 characters each because of, the co-op and everything. But this game right here, it just wipes it all away. And I can't help but notice that it probably took a lot of inspiration from PT, the legendary horror demo that was the Silent Hills playable teaser. Shout out to Hideo Kojima for that, for shocking the whole gaming industry with something that was just one hallway and one creepy ass, I don't know what to call her, ghost. I don't know, demonic presence. I don't know. Another influence. This is me geeking out over influences, man. I like I said, I can't say that this is gonna be a review. I can't say that this is gonna be some type of deep dive. This is me appreciating the horror influences that this game makes me think of. Shout out to The Exorcist. Whenever you see anybody's face go from looking all normal to looking insane and uncomfortable. Shout out to The Exorcist, man. Anything where people's faces transform. I'm doing this while I'm talking about all this stuff in the middle of the night, and I'm getting the chills just thinking about it. Cause horror. I love horror. I love the feeling of horror. Sometimes life gets a little bit too I guess I don't know. You get so used to walking around in the dark, especially if you have a job that takes you to places that made you uncomfortable as a kid. But the imagination, that is where the horror lives. That is where the horror can thrive. Like whenever you have that, and games happen to be a place where people could put their imaginations, project their imaginations in the most vivid forms. And that's what we have here. Somebody projecting all of these different horrific influences in one nice package. I mean, this will be good for the kids if they listen to this. If they ever play this type of game and they ever get a question in their mind, I wonder where did this come from? I wonder what was the inspiration? I wonder what was the influence for this? And hey, this type of video with me showing these clips from these movies, maybe or hopefully that'll help. And shout out to Resident Evil for always having I guess special arms in games. See, the fun thing about this game is the special arm that I took note of was in the DLC. You get the special arm, and it happens to be in the reverse. Usually you're going against somebody who has a special arm. Shout out to William Birkin, and Albert Wesker had a special arm at the end of RE5, the big bladed arm. Shout out to Alex Mercer off of the prototype. But anyways, you get an arm in the DLC where you play with Joe Baker, which is insane. Oh yeah, you play with Chris Redfield too. Chris comes complete with punches and all this stuff. His DLC is pretty cool. It's you have way more ability in the beginning than Ethan. But Ethan ends up being a powerhouse by the end. So yeah, shout out to him coming through with shotguns and such. Reminds me of Ash at the end of the Evil Dead. No chainsaw on the arm, but I guess mechanics just wouldn't allow for that. But it seemed like I don't know if a chainsaw arm would have went right. I think it's nice to have both your hands by the end. I'd rather have both my hands than a stump.
That's not groovy.
Anyways, Joe Baker, he gets a bionic arm and he is punching through the molded. The final boss battle is a hand-to-hand fight with somebody who was torturing and chasing you throughout the whole entire normal game. You are living out a power fantasy in that DLC. It is what is it called? Zoe's End? When you're going through that DLC, you fight with your bare hands. You barely use any other weapons. Your bare hands is there. You have these, the offense and defense dodging options and stuff like that. It is something that I never would have suspected, but it was fun. It turned the game into something else. In the normal game, when you're playing with Ethan, you're helpless. It is truly survival horror. It was just pure action by the time we got to 5 and 6. But RE7 brings back that survival horror. I'm like, I need my resources. Every corner is creeping me the fuck out.
I told you to stay out of here!
every little noise is creeping me the fuck out. Shout out to the cabin on the Evil Dead with the bench that moves and makes that crickety noise and stops at will. So many influences. It just feels so good to see something like this and to see that horror movies have a place in games in a type of way. Like, I know we got the Dead by Daylight series. I know we got other games based on different horror games like Friday the 13th. But you know, those are like copy and paste. Even an Evil Dead asymmetrical multiplayer game. But those games are like, you know what I'm saying, just ripped straight from those and then pasted. I like seeing stuff that's influenced by it and turned into something else, something new, something more. And that's what this Resident Evil 7 is. Resident Evil 7, it gave me a completely different feeling from RE5 and RE6. A better feeling.
What the fuck? Well, that's special.
And with that being said, I can't wait to play through Resident Evil 8. So yeah, y'all stay geeked in these streets, man. That's it for me. Talking about the influences. I love this game. The DLC was nice. And I haven't played through Resident Evil 8 at the time of this recording, but I'm ready to go see what that one has. I see that it's about giantesses. Shout out to Futurama with all the snoo. And there may be a video of that coming. I don't know when I'm gonna play through it. I have way too many games right now to play through. But RE7 made me think about the sum of modern horror when it comes to all this stuff. So shout out to Capcom for shifting horror, because you know, over the shoulder RE4, beautiful, classic, but it started going in the direction that, you know, well, I will say this. I guess I will say this as a bonus. The RE4 remake, the creepiness in that, I think it came from games like this. This RE7 showed that we love the creepiness. So the creepiness got turned up in the RE4 remake. And if they could balance that creepiness with the action and mechanics of that Resident Evil 4 remake, oh, I'm ready for whatever's next after Resident Evil Village. I'm pretty sure Village is gonna be solid, but I'm ready for whatever's next after Village. If they hop back over the shoulder, if they decide to make a prequel back in the you know what I'm saying, pre-Raccoon City days, if we do that, I'm ready. But yeah, RE7, the sum of modern horror. I love it. Shout out to the fans. If you have any thoughts, if you have any influences, I'm pretty sure I didn't point out all of them. If you have any influences that this game makes you think of while you're playing through it or seeing it, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I love talking about games whenever. I love talking about anything that makes me think, especially if it makes me like geek out and start talking about other things surrounding it. It just keeps a bunch of shit that I like alive. Like, I haven't seen nobody put out a Freddy Krueger video in a minute. You might get to see his face a lot more than you have been on your algorithms. But yeah, shout out to everybody for listening. Till next time.